together. Developing the Leader Within podcast, leading beyond limits.
Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't subscribed, please do so right now, as it will help us get our show to others and help us get to our next milestone. Make sure to catch us streaming on Parade Deck, on Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Purpose Place Network, and catch our exclusive members-only content, Going Deeper Within, on the Lions Guide Academy. Today, we are speaking with Mando Sallavanti III. Mando is a certified financial planner and certified exit planning advisor operating out of Greater Philadelphia. He runs a fee-based financial planning practice where he serves a diverse clientele, particularly tech sales executives, helping them navigate the complexities of variable income, company stock, insurance, taxes, and long-term financial strategies. Mando, welcome to the show, brother.
Enrique, my man, appreciate you having me and super excited to chat today.
We are definitely excited about having you on. Folks, we'll be speaking about leading through numbers, building wealth, and leadership that lasts. And I'm loving not only the title of the subject, but I know the importance of this, Mando, and we're going to get into this. But before we do, give us a little background on you and, folks that may not know you.
Yeah, man. So I remember growing up, my first hero, I think like a lot of people, was my father. And my father was my first hero because I saw the way we grew up. We weren't filthy rich, but Little League season came around and I got a new baseball bat. It was Christmas time. There was presents under the tree. We had a good childhood, right? You get the new sneaks on the first day of school. Like, it was a good childhood. So I liked that life. And then second, you go out to eat as a family. You're at a restaurant in town. I grew up in a town of less than 9,000 people, 3 square miles, bunch of Italians that came over to New York City at Ellis Island and moved to this small town, Old Forge in Pennsylvania. So you go to the restaurants that are all the local people own them. And we couldn't leave the restaurants for 45 minutes on our way out the door because this table stops my dad and this table stops my dad and the one by the door stops them and they're talking and everyone just loved them, and I'd see their face light up. And I'm a little kid and I'm like pulling on my dad's leg. I'm like, let's go, I want to play video games, like get me out of here. But as I got older, I started to appreciate it because I saw like people did this because my dad impacted them. My dad was a leader in their life, and in his world, it was through medicine. So naturally, I wanted to be just like my dad and go into medicine. And he's a family physician, and so like the family physician is like that, like central point to the family's medicine journey or health journey. And I wanted to follow in his footsteps originally. So why I'm bringing that up is my whole life, and to this day, my nickname is Doc. All my friends are like, "You're gonna be a doctor, just like your dad." Everyone around me said it. My best friend just got married less than a month ago. Like, we're at my wedding, he's calling me Doc, like just not even thinking about it, and like I don't even think about it because it's just like what people call me that are like my friends I grew up with. And I get to college, and I realize, long story short, I don't want to do this. I like the impact my dad has. I like the life he gave us, but really, this isn't my passion. It's just the outcome of it. So he puts me in touch with his network, a couple different people. Like, hey, you're in college. You're not just going to go and not know what you're doing. Like, we need to be intentional about this. So that was a great lesson my dad taught me about intentionality and strategy. But one of the calls was his advisor, financial advisor. When I spoke with him, I'm like asking him questions, driving around. I left the house because I'm like, I need alone time and I want to talk to him not with my parents around. Um, I'll skip to the part of what he told me it meant to be a financial advisor and why I got into this, because I think it embodies a lot about who I am and why I do what I do. His name is Timmy, and Timmy said to me, He said, kid, and he still calls me kid to this day. But he said, kid, there's three things we all think about before we go to sleep. Number one, did I hurt anybody today? And if I did, I could pray about it. I could talk to a friend, whatever I have to do to make my mind right. I said, number two, am I healthy? It's my family, my friends. If we're not, who do they call? He's like, kid, that's your dad. They call your dad. He's the second thing that they think about before they go to bed. And he said, the third thing, just before we go to sleep, just before we shut our eyes, can I pay that bill? Am I doing the right things with my money for my family long term? Are we going to be okay in the future? Do we have enough savings? Like these are the things that we think about in milliseconds right before we go to sleep. But I remember I'm on the phone with Timmy and he's like, I'm the third thing people think about before they go to bed. Who do you want to be? And I like want I'm like I want to be you. I want to run through a wall. I never even like met you before. But in that conversation I realized I can have the impact. I can make the money and do it in a really meaningful way through finance, just as my dad did through medicine. So that's what led me into finance and kind of the origin story, but going back to really my childhood.
What I love about that is that you make a point that not everybody's journey is the same, but you can still get some of the same benefits and rewards through your own way. And that's important, folks, for you to understand that not just because someone did it, you need to do it. Just find what is best for you and do it as best as you can. And you're doing well, brother. I applaud not only your courage to say, hey, that's not for me, but also identify what was for you, and you're doing just that. And it looks like your dad, what you saw in the restaurant is that he built trust with the people, right? And because if he was a doc and he was not trustworthy, they wouldn't go to him or pull him to speak to him. So as we're talking about trust, what leadership principles have been most essential in building trust with your clients in the financial planning world?
I think the biggest thing is like people just want to know that you're being transparent and there's not anything that they're hiding. So I'll give you an example on this. I'm always looking for solutions in my business for that I can use, whether it's software or a service or an agency or something that can help me grow my business or serve my clients better or whatever it is. So I signed up for this software like earlier this year. And long story short, they put me into some contract with like requirements and like minimums that I was never told about. And it was all fine print, quote unquote, even for someone that reads through all the stuff and asks all the questions. I was able to end up getting myself out of it. But there's nothing worse than being in that situation where it's like, oh, you signed this contract and like this says this here and this is like this thing. Nobody wants to find out that they've gotten got. No one wants to find out there is a catch. So when it comes to building trust, I think it comes down to simply like say what reality is, the good and the bad, lay it all out there, stick to your word. And I have a mentor in the financial advice business, and he said to me, our job is to be amazing promise makers and even better promise keepers. And the day you stop being an amazing promise keeper is the day you will lose trust and the day your business will start going the other way. If you can just remember, promise maker, promise keeper, do those two things, you will build the trust, you will build the business, the right things will happen over the course of time. So, transparency, keeping the promises, doing what you say you were going to do. I think those are, tried and true things that they just go a long way and they're a little bit cliche, but I think they are for a reason.
Yeah, and I love that because you're right. No one wants to find out later on that they stepped into what they thought was a bed of flowers and it was a minefield, right? This
Right.
one of those things that just pulls the rug from under your feet. And a lot of folks have tough decisions to make. when it comes to finances and their financial future. So, how do you balance the technical expertise of financial planning with the human side of leading a client through those tough decisions?
Yeah, so just a couple months ago, I had a client, a new client, and older woman, in her 80s, working with her as well as her daughter because she is like towards the tail end of her life, and there's other circumstances, not to get too much into it.
Mhm.
But long story short, um, they own real estate, and we're looking at, hey, should we keep this real estate? Should we sell the real estate and put it into more of a passive fund? Like, what should that look like? And sometimes, not to get into the details of the situation, but with them, what ultimately ended up making sense is like, what decision is going to give you flexibility, is going to give you less of a headache, less work on your shoulders, and still get you to maybe not the 100% most optimal numerical outcome or mathematical outcome, however you describe that, but it's going to get you where you need to be. So I always say to clients, or even prospective clients, or just whoever I talk to about finance, and that situation is an example of it. Enrique, if I lined all my clients up, we got them on a Zoom call, and I say, guys, girls, would you rather a 50% chance that you're going to reach 100% of your maximum financial potential, or 100% chance that you're going to reach 90% of your maximum financial potential? They're going to take the 90% all day, every time. And I think what most people don't talk about in the financial advice world, or financial planning world enough, is the difference between 90% and 100% often doesn't mean living a different life or not hitting the goal you're actually setting out for. But the difference from 90 to 50, that's where people lose. And that's what we need to make sure we avoid. So, anyways.
Yeah, no, I love that because let's say in the veteran community, which I'm part of, there is this thing post service called the VA. And, if you go to the VA and they rate you, let's say, at 50%, yeah, it's a rating. But if they rate you at 90% and your goal is 100, even from 50, there's not much difference between 90 and 100, right? So, and a lot of people want the 100 for this, that, and the other, right? But it's true. And it goes down to what you just said. You have a communication session, you speak to your clients. And so, in speaking, you get clarity, right? So, what role does effective communication play in helping clients navigate financial uncertainty? And how can leaders in any field apply this?
Yeah, so a lot of the clients I work with are in tech, and I work with a good chunk of entrepreneurs as well. But in the tech world, there's been a lot of layoffs over the past, maybe 6 to 9 months, even longer than that potentially. But like 6 to 9 months, I've been seeing it with my clients. I've had multiple that have been laid off, and in all of these situations, I think when we're in it, we're emotional. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing in the world. I'm never going to be able to find the job. How do I recover from this? So we're in the emotion of what's going on. But the role that I come in and play with clients is, okay, let me step back and look over the situation. Let me work on the situation, not in the situation. And my question or framing is always the same thing. How do we make the next best decision? Not how do we fix this today? Not how do we get to your ideal life today? What is the next best move? And Mr. and Mrs. Client, we're going to do the next best move as many times as possible, keeping in mind what's coming in the future. And if we do that, we're going to end up okay. You're going to be in the best situation possible. Is that fair if we do that? Absolutely, all day. And I have a meeting with the client Friday who we've been dealing with a situation for a couple months. There's even like some legal stuff that, not to get too much into the situation, but the client had wrongful termination, and there's a lot of stuff that's adding some folds to some things to the mix. Like, we're just going one thing at a time because that's all we can do. When we try to take, you can only hit one home run at a time. You can't hit 7 home runs in one at bat if you're a baseball player. So that's the approach I try to take with every client. And I think it makes something like finance, it could be overwhelming at times, a little bit less daunting.
And even in the leadership arena, that next step is the most important step, right? Just as in finances and you and how you speak to your clients, leaders, your next step is the most important. I mean, you can think about the future and how this next step is going to implicate that, but if you don't make the next step the best one, you may not get to come back or uh recover from the the worst thing you could do at the time, right? So I love that approach. The next step should be what we are thinking of, both financially and in the leadership world, because it is truly the most important. Now, you speak about this next step, and I kind of equate it to you got to be adaptable in some way to be able to adjust to what that step may look like. So, in your experience, how important is adaptability in financial leadership, especially when markets and tax laws are constantly changing? And it definitely has this last year.
Yeah, so flexibility is crucial. And just this morning, I had a conversation with a client of mine. He's in a great situation. He's making great money, but he has a couple job offers on the table where he's going to double his income, potentially even triple it, depend with incentives, depending on what offer he takes. And he's like, yeah, I know we have this plan now, but I just don't know like how this is going to change things. And I said, hey, look, man, these are great things. There's great opportunities that are being presented to you and are in front of you. We don't need to worry about how things are going to change after the fact, because if one of them materializes and you take that offer and now your income jumps, yes, our plan is going to change because it should, because now you have new opportunity you weren't open to before. So we have built flexibility into this so we're able to do that, and now we'll just move. And on the good side of things, it's the same thing. We're going to make the next best step and get you where you need to be.
The fact that you are putting in adaptability, and a lot of people don't include that in their financial structure,
Mhm.
right? Most of the folks that I know are fixed. They're fixed income and they're also fixed minded. And so it's hard to pivot or adjust if something drastic happens financially in their world. That's where most of, the sky is falling comes into play, and they don't know how to make the next best move. So when you bring this in, it seems to me that there's a lot of strategy that you put into
Right.
getting somebody where they actually should be. So, what strategies have you found most effective for leading high performing teams or in a client centric, results driven environment?
So when we look forward, there's only four in general, there's only four economic conditions that we will really face. And let me show you the frame that I look through with those. So if you have markets being stock market, real estate markets, bond markets, um, throw in whatever investment, and then you throw in taxes. If we're here today in 2025 and we fast forward to 2045, taxes can either be relatively higher or lower to where they are today. And then markets can either be up or down in any singular year. So why is that relevant? If I have both of them up, that is one market condition. So taxes are higher relative to history, markets are positive in that year. I can have them both down. Taxes are lower relative to history, markets are negative in that given year, and then you can have a mixture of the two. In general, those are the only four market conditions we will face. Now, why is that important? If we know these are the only four conditions we'll face, the part of financial freedom and planning and wealth building that I think is so overlooked is, hey, we're going to invest dollars. We're going to do great with where we build our wealth. We're going to own a business, whatever we do. How do we turn these into income? A lot of people never think about that. A lot of people never think about what's actually my strategy to distribute these assets and live off them. Because is the goal really to build a big pile of money? Absolutely not. The goal is not to build a big pile of money. The goal is to put that money away, be able to spend it, and then ideally, most of our clients want to create generational wealth as well and be able to spend as much of theirs as possible, but leave a legacy to their children as well so they can help them start a foot ahead of where they started on their journey. So, what we do with clients is say, okay, if we're aiming for this target, I'll use the word retirement date, but really it's just work optional. Like I have enough passive income built up that I could live off the assets. If we're aiming for a certain date on that, let's make sure that we have money in each of these four economic conditions. We have money in certain buckets that will optimally work as an income generator in that given market condition. So I'll give you a simple example. A Roth account. We pay tax on the money today. It goes into a Roth account. I can invest in that account and that money can grow. If I meet all the rules that a Roth account constitutes, when I take the money out later, it could potentially be tax free. So if I was invested in stocks and it's tax free later, and I go to take that money out later, in the market conditions where taxes are higher and markets are up, that is an ideal place or a good place, a good option to take money from to generate some passive income. So just a simple example to like drive that point home. But this is a big planning conversation we have with all the high earners we work with because most of them have never even thought about how do I turn the assets into income, and they don't realize the impact that both of these forces are actually not set up in their favor in their current plan many times that we talk to them.
Most people I know have definitely not looked at how can my assets be that passive form of steady income where I now build multiple streams where now I can live comfortably without too much exertion, right? And wearing myself out. I'm blessed at 45. I was retired, and that's not a big a number that you often see people say, "Oh, I'm retired at 45," but great planning, great decisions made that possible. And so I totally agree with what you say. And folks, if you found this interesting enough, look, I'm telling you right now that Mando's the one that you need to speak to. But Mando, if somebody wanted to, what do you have coming up, and where can the viewer listener follow you or support you?
LinkedIn will be the best place. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. I have a couple free resources as well in on my profile there. You can, if you click on my website, which is on my profile, and scroll down, there's two free resources there. One of them's for entrepreneurs. One of them is if you're an executive, whether you're in tech as an executive or you're in sales in another industry, it could be relevant for you. But LinkedIn's a good place. I have a newsletter I send out 3 times a week, which is focused on client stories, examples that I've seen in my time advising a lot of the high earners that we deal with. And just for context, most of the people we work with are making four to $500,000 a year. They're investing 500,000 to $1 million in their current portfolios, roughly. So these are the types of stories and the things I'm talking about. And even if you're not quite there yet, it could be good for you as an aspirational point to see like what are these people doing so it can help you get there.
Absolutely love that, folks. It's never too late. It's never too early. Yeah, it is now, right? These are the days you make those decisions so that your future looks the way you think it should. Brother, thank you so much for sharing your advice, sharing your knowledge around this. And folks, I hope that you reach out to Mando. We'll have all those links as part of the show notes and the video so that you can do that. Folks, and today's episode is sponsored by the Global Trends Magazine, the Outlier Project, Fantail Services, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, Ascend Meditations, and Chop AI. If you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know by leaving a comment. And tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.